Welcome to Journey Through the Gate, your paranormal portal podcast, as we delve into the many questions and wonders brought on by the supernatural experience. What's on the other side of the gate? Let's find out together. Hi everybody, welcome to Haunted Castle Weekend, and it's going to be really cool. I think when you start digging into how many haunted castles, how many ghost stories, how many legends, how many tales of unrequited love, or crazy Henry VIII with his 6 wives and just beheading anybody that he didn't like or didn't agree with him, or that he wanted a divorce. So I thought we'd dig into it, pull up some old stuff, add some new stuff, talk about it a little bit, talk about what your favorite castle ghost stories are. When I started digging in, I thought about going all over the place, not just some of the ones that we've always heard, but some of those too, because they're worth revisiting. So we'll see what we dig up. Most important thing in here tonight that I've seen so far is PETA needs our healing prayers and lots of energy and healing light sent that way. I believe there was a car accident. I may have missed most of it. If you guys know, it was in the beginning of the chat, and I was trying to work with some stuff here on the laptop. But absolutely, our hearts and thoughts are absolutely with you, and anything that you need, you've got love sent your way here in this chat. So all of that, send it right now to PETA in your way, in absolutely in love, on love energy, okay? And anybody else, that goes for anybody tonight. Laura is babysitting a sick kitty, and we absolutely send love that way too. And I know a lot of people in here need all kind of healing and all kinds of love and hugs and virtual hugs. And I hope that the ghosts that you're living with hug you tonight. How about that? That was woo. That could either be good or bad. I mean, let's think about our lady who married the pirate, right? Don't let it get out of hand now, okay? Don't let it get out of hand. Keep those big fat candles lit. That's for sure. But all kidding aside, yes, love and healing thoughts to everybody out there that needs them. And that's what this show is kind of about. It all week long, I'm thinking about doing this, and what can I talk about, and what can we, what would the chat like to see? What can we kick around? If it's an old can we kick it around and find out that there was more rules and physics and other things that we didn't think about before, or these odd rules that go on in this universe and this wonderful subject of the supernatural and paranormal. So there's that. But it also helps me through the week, because I'm thinking about that. What subject to base on, how to do it, what guests, what book I'm reading, what subject, or, get together with other people and do roundtables. Love those, love all the having different guests and everything. But this last couple of weeks have been kind of hard because everybody's going through some kind of thing right now. I don't know anybody that's not getting whacked upside the head with the spiritual stick this week, over past month. So what do? You stay, practice what you preach. You try to stay high vibration, and you try to find the things that put you over, and you avoid those, and you just stay in stuff that you like and takes you away a little bit. And that's what this show is supposed to do, is take everybody away a little bit as we gather together in this chat and throw back wisdom and experiences and things like that. So welcome all gatekeepers in here. Thank you so much, mods, for everybody. Listen, mods tonight, if you're in the link mood and you want to throw out some of these links, I've got a lot of clips and from a couple of YouTube channels, and basically a lot of them are, like we've been finding old 70s, early 90s stuff that was made and was fantastic and kind of tossed to the side and not played anywhere, picked up by anybody. but the stories in them were great, and the way that they related to the story and retold the story, all of that we really like, the ambiance of the whole thing. And gosh, with haunted castles, right? So as usual, Leonard Nimoy was a great inspiration to me this week, because again, like I said earlier, when you're trying to think of where do you zero in on, is there anything different, that I know enough to talk about or to have a guest on to tell you about, and I'm learning too. But when I do these solo nights, that's where I got to kind of, zero in on something. So of course, when I came across this channel that had the Leonard Nimoy haunted castles, I was in. So tonight, I just get such a chuckle from him, because the way he says certain things, it's just you can't beat it. And as an extra special treat in here, there is a story, and in the intro to the story, Leonard is in his absolute theatrical best, I think, when he said he actually says a phrase that has the word pantaloons in it, and it tickled me, every time I heard it, because I have to go through and edit and put other stuff with it and take out all kinds of stuff. You have no idea how long it takes to do these little short videos, I swear. And it just made me chuckle all the time. So if it made me chuckle, I kind of hope it does you too. There's a lot of fun stuff in here tonight. Tomorrow night, I've already talked to Steve. I don't know if we can get a hold of Mark. I talked to him last week. He said he might pop in because we had some Cornwall stuff for tomorrow, and all the wonderful haunts and haints that they have there. So I'm not 100% sure about that, but I know Steve and I are going to continue the part 2 of this. So tonight, I thought that we'd have this part of it. It's not in any type of order where I'm going to do like all of Scotland or all of, gosh, can you imagine? All of England, all of Ireland, it's all around the world. I picked a couple of stories that were new to me and also showed me something different. There's one in here that gives a really good vantage point on how long does a ghost last. I mean, how many times have we heard that, older ghosts, do they dissipate over time? Are they forgotten and just dissipate because nobody pays attention to them, or there's no way to draw energy, or all the different theories and thoughts, and it's so intriguing to think about. So there's a story in here about that. I've got a fun one, Old Tom, and you'll see who I'm talking about here coming up soon. But again, Leonard Nimoy, and In Search Of, and I didn't know whether you guys knew. In Search Of actually ran, I've got it written down so I don't get the numbers wrong here. I think it was 77 to 82, and it was inspired by 3 documentaries that Alan Landsberg did. And Alan Landsberg was really big in the late 60s, up into the 80s, I believe, maybe even further. Don't quote me on that. But he was very inspired by the, like, Chariots of the Gods. All this was coming out at this time, exploring all that stuff. Even to the opposite end with The Hobbit. Came out in the the theaters not long after that. That whole spectrum of ancient Egypt to ancient lore and fantasy, and I think Labyrinth, well, that was a little bit further on, like by a decade, but different things like that. So he was very interesting. He did really good documentaries, great production series, and one of them was In Search Of. And the first 3 documentaries he did was very much done in the style of In Search Of, but it was narrated by Rod Serling. And Rod was absolutely Alan's first choice for when the series got picked up, but right before they started filming, Rod Serling died. And unexpectedly, I mean, I think he had a very was an awful thing, but I think it was very quick. I think it was cancer. But anyhow, then he got Leonard Nimoy. And, I've listened to the documentaries. They're all available on YouTube. It's In Search of, I didn't write them all down, but I'll see if I can get them for tomorrow night. But you can just put In Search of Documentaries, and it comes up. A lot of people, a lot of channels have it. And the In Search of series, I think it was like, gosh, so many episodes. And again, like I said before, on a lot of these shows where we do this, they're all available on YouTube. Go watch the whole thing. Absolutely go through or check out, the different things, other voices, where they talk about EVPs and the equipment and stuff that they had back then. And, In Search of Mysterious Energies is a great one. I'm thinking about doing something like that, in the future for a future show. But just the way they did it, people bending spoons with their minds. And you remember all that, when they were doing that back in the 70s and 80s. There were so many documentaries about that. Now, you hardly see any of that anymore. So anyhow, that was fun. But tonight, after we greet everybody in here, I wanted to say to the mods, I got off track there. Again, I'm sorry, it's been a rough week. I mean, we've had, I don't want to bring it all up tonight, but just trust me, it's hitting everybody, and, just funerals and arrangements and, trying to do all the stuff that I tell you guys to do, with memories and happy thoughts and, stuff like that. But it just seems like everywhere you turn, there's something like that going on. But I think it's what you focus on too. Because if you focus on the other stuff, the birds are still there, laughter's still there, jokes are still there, good times, kids playing, just all of the stuff, the sunshine, flowers are coming up where I am, and then it's snowing in places. I don't know what's going on. It's crazy. So I think all empaths are feeling that kind of shift and pull. It's like the tide is really going in and out, and there's like a storm on the water, and that kind of thing. I think that's what empaths are doing. And every once in a while we forget, and we get caught up in the paddling and trying to keep your head above water, that you don't realize that if you just stop struggling sometimes and just float a little bit, you can get through it a little bit more, at least get your breath. So that's what we're going to try to do tonight. We're going to try to catch our breath and talk about some of these cool legends and stuff. But hey, Maraid, one of my wonderful mods. Oh yeah, third time I tried to tell you this and I keep forgetting. Any links that you want to throw out there, please do. Don't feel like you have to, because like I said, most of this stuff, I wanted to pay, do my due diligence on recommending some of these channels, but most of these channels that I'm going to mention are channels that are bringing back a lot of those old documentaries and old TV and old movies, and like Steve was doing, where you'd watch an old movie together, stuff like that. So most of those, and they're on multiple channels, so don't feel like you have to back me up with links, but if you'd like to, you go right ahead. Anything that helps this chat out is fine with me. Hello, Ian. How you doing? Let's see what you guys are saying in this chat tonight. Black Dragon, boy, it's a perfect night for you. You should feel right at home, right? Hey, Blue, how you doing, love? FYI, local farm reported... Oh, wait. Let's see what you got going on here. A local farmer reported a Bigfoot sighting, and another woman reported strange vocalizations, both less than 3 miles from where I found that print. Oh gosh, Blue, keep us, this is it right here. We've got ongoing. I mean, isn't it all though? There's always an ongoing, so absolutely keep your eye out. Let us know, Blue. Those pictures were absolutely fantastic. I see why you'd been excited. I would have been losing it. And I'm so sorry again. I apologize for taking me, like 2 weeks to get it on, but my head's been scrambled for a while. But yes, keep us posted. That is amazing. Absolutely amazing. Are you kidding me? How you doing? Linda, hi honey. How you doing tonight? Surrender? Yep, surrender. Surrender, just float, baby. Just float. And then you start worrying about what's in the water underneath you and what's nipping at you. So, you know how we do. We get in our meditative state and something calls us right back out. You just got to get right back on the horse. Let's see. On key like always. Yep, Pan. This is what I'm saying, babe. Pam, I'm not joking. It's like we're, thing is you just gotta watch for the undertow, right? As long as you can float above that and realize, only fight when you need to, so you can, conserve your energy, if you know what I mean. That's a multi-leveled thing right there. So that's the thing. Hey Ann, how you doing? Hey Glenn, welcome, welcome, welcome. Who else we have? Gray. Hey Lindsay, how you doing, sweetie? So yeah, so that's pretty much it. Easy breezy tonight. No, big links. I would love it if Uncommon, can you drop my PayPal link and my Teespring if you wouldn't mind. That would be great. And again, throughout this whole thing, I think that it's important to remember history. But what was really kicking me was when you start digging in some of these castles. Jilly, I'm so glad. I saw what you said in the beginning of the chat, hun. I love that you're here tonight. Thanks for being here, as I love all my gatekeepers. And again, we keep, everybody knows here we keep the chat chill. So if somebody jumps in, you don't need me to tell you to bake them some shut the fuck up cakes or give them love. Whatever you choose to do, as long as they're not out of hand. If they get out of hand, give them a cupcake and send them on their way. Kick them in the butt. Sparta the butt right out the door. So, yeah. I was digging into all these castles and I'm thinking, gosh, it was built in like 1020, 1333, 1500s, 1400s. And I'm thinking, gosh, I can't imagine walking around in something like that. The stones remember, the rock remembers, the wind on the hill. So many were built on hills. And throughout this night, I got as many videos up tonight as I could. I have just as many for tomorrow. I haven't even scratched the surface. So, it's amazing. And also, poor Donnie, I forgot. If we could send some extra love taps for Donnie. This time I've got it right. He's actually had oral surgery, and God bless him. And hey, Sean, welcome in. And so send him also healing vibes tonight, Donnie. I'm so sorry. I just had that a couple months ago. I'm telling you what, it was it's not fun. It's not a good Friday night, I'll tell you that right now. So anyway, without further ado, Sean, just welcome in here. I even thought about calling you, asking if you wanted to join me on this one tonight. We'll have to do that. I'd love to have you on to where we were just, get your feedback on some of this stuff, some of the old TV and stuff. I know you enjoy it, and I appreciate all your kind words and sending people over to subscribe. And again, if you've got a link, guys, anybody that has a link, YouTube channel, a show, please feel free to put it up. If go support them, give them thumbs up on their, on all their videos that that you like, and support each other, because that's the big thing right now. We really got to stick together. We can sit here and we can watch something for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and talk about a subject, and at the same time pull from our tired empathic bodies and still send out good energy, because it's going to combine and it's going to go in those directions we send it in. I firmly believe that. I've got multiple stories in my own life that confirms that, hands down. So throughout this, all the laughter, all the smiles and everything else also go out to all those people tonight that need healing, including that little kitty that I'm sure Laura is taking wonderful care of. So that's for everybody. So what do you say we pop a video, right? And this is going to be, I had so much fun. I cannot tell you. All these little ghost things that I put on the ends, pay attention and watch, because I think it's going to make, some of these things are going to hug your heart. And some of them are going to give you just a little bit of a chill and a smile, because the whole reason we like this kind of stuff, it's not the zombie coming at you or from around the corner in a haunted house kind of thing. It's that kind where you go, cool, and it just kind of gives you that little kind of chill tingle, and that's kind of cool too. So I hope you get some of that tonight. I'd say let's kick this mule. Haunted Castles done Cisco style. Now, Keep your eye on it. I know you're not going to be able to see everything at once because I kind of tried to, in some of it, it was almost synchronized with the music. And I realized after it was a little fast to catch everything, but you don't have to catch everything. Catch what your eyes want to catch now, and then I will play this little short guy at the end um, of the night. So if you missed anything, you want to go back and see it again. But this is just like a little appetizer, like when you go to the, you go down to the Olive Garden, you're having a big night, and you want to get that around the world thing where you just get a little bite of everything, no double dipping. And that's what this is. So without further ado, I hope it is, or it's a Cisco mess up and we're just going to roll with it because that's what we do here. But I hope you enjoy it. I hope it's not too loud. Let me know if this sounds okay. Give me a thumbs up or a 5-5 if you guys can hear it. I can always turn it up, okay? Oh, hang on one second before we get started. What are you saying, Sean? Aw, that's sweet. I missed it. By something that were heavy old Remo Gaucho church perfume. Oh, you got haunted by it's something to think about. You get haunted by a ghost that's got a bad, wears terrible perfume. I mean, I guess that could go completely 180 either way. You could just get this overwhelming. I was thinking about it because the first thing that came to my mind was the smell of roses. A lot of times they'll talk about that with a Madonna, or they'll talk about angels, and it's so opposite of sulfur. And then you got all the stuff in between. What if it's just a ghost wearing like high karate or something, or brute, And how much could you put up with that? I had to put up with that in the 70s, which is why I think when I started bartending, or hanging out at bars, either way, it was always on one side of the bar or the other. Very rarely under it, though. I very rarely passed out at a bar. I don't remember passing out at a bar and laying on the floor. Remember almost hitting the floor a couple times, but I had good friends, so not of my own accord, but at least I could pick good friends. But anyway, what were we talking about? Oh, perfume. Yeah. Oh, Halston Z14. Man, I'll tell you, it's a long jump from like high karate to Halston Z14. Ladies, you know what I'm talking about. Woo, some of those colognes back in the 70s, boy. I think that's when they really started really putting the pheromones on. But I digress. Ghosts. We're talking about ghosts. Okay. Don't get me started. Don't do it. I hope you enjoyed this. Like I said, you don't have to catch everything. Just enjoy the flow of it, and you get another chance at the end to see it if you wanted to focus on anything. It's just a trip around the world, a little appetizer. Told you we were going to have fun. How cool was that, right? Do you have any idea how much fun? That thing probably took me 2 days to do. And again, I apologize that some of the words were going by a little too fast. There were name of the castle, and there'd be a picture of the castle, and then if there was something famous, like the elemental. How many people saw the elemental fade kind of back behind the Lep Castle? Oh my gosh. And the first time I saw that elemental thing, I think it was on Unsolved Mysteries when I was like 10 or 11. I never forgot that face. Thank you so much. I appreciate the so much that you like the music. We always talk about the music, and I get so lucky. It's like I get guided, and I'm like putting in different words. It's like, what word do you use to get the feeling? If you've ever used, if you make any videos, I highly recommend YouTube Audio Library. It's on your YouTube studio, and you go down in there, and now they'll let you pick mood, genre, something in a title or an artist, right? And I've discovered all these wonderful artists. I put it, in several times the videos, see it multiple times. And I try to always remember to put it in the description. Sometimes I forget. But it's always on the videos what it is, because these musicians are bar none. I mean, amazing. Blue, aren't they? If you go in there and you look through, I mean, everything from jazz to rap to classical to dramatic, whatever it might be. So I have this mood in my mind how I do it, and after I go through all the pictures, it's like how it made me feel. And that one princess, and I'm not going to say her name because I don't want to get it wrong, but let me see if I can pull it up here without the sound here for a second. But oh wow, I hit it right on top. Do you see her? She was murdered in the castle and dragged down the concrete steps, or stone steps, all the way down, and the bloodstains still remain all the way down the stone steps, and they won't leave. It's one of her story. But to see her face, she just spoke to me, and that's where I got the song from. I don't know how else to explain it. It was like after that, and I started going through the audio library, and I was putting in a Renaissance, castle, medieval, I went everything, minuet. I went through all different words, and all of a sudden that song Renaissance Castle pops up, and I'm like, wow, that's it. Sometimes when you make a connection like that, and I don't care what kind of art or creativity you do, whether it's playing music or crocheting or making jewelry or pottery or blacksmithing or fixing a car, whatever you want to call your artistic endeavor. When you make a connection like that, it's almost spiritual in a way, because it's like I think it reaches down and hits you, like kids say today, in the feels. It gets you in that emotion where it connects, and your artistic eye and what's in your brain kind of comes out into a material thing, and it's just, it's always amazing. Anytime you're drawing or painting and you hit that mark, and that song hit it for me with her, and it just it's just amazing. I can understand why people write songs for people. With me, certain songs do that, and there's one that I think the first time I heard it, I just sat and thought, my God, what did she do to him? I mean, this guy, he's just reached in and just put it all out there and just made that guitar play what was in his heart. And that was Gary Moore, Still Got the Blues for You. And when you make that kind of hit, you see it again, like if you go to a blues jam and everybody just sinks 2 or 3 songs and it's gone. You can never hit it again. That's what it was like for me with her. So that's why I don't even want to say her name, because I don't want to get it wrong. There's so many of these stories that are in other languages. There's one that's in Japan. And to try to get that, and just to be able to say to give it the honor it needs, you know what I mean? So there's that. I'm so glad you appreciated it. So let's see what you guys are saying in here. Sometimes I can talk and read, and sometimes I cannot. Yes, absolutely, Blue. Music is mood altering and can either tell a story, enhance Absolutely. There's a couple of them in here. There's going to be 3 different songs over the next 2 days because this is going to be a double header. And I got lucky 3 times, I believe. You be the judge. Let's see. Okay, that's, you guys are having a convo. All right, I didn't miss anything. Thank you again, for all the stuff, seeing it, appreciating it. You guys are getting it, and if you guys get that, then it's going to take you where I want to take you tonight, and I think that's awesome because, like Blue said, it can make it or break it, right? Thank you so much, Greg. So there it is. All right, so Meatloaf, I Can Do Anything for Love. That's my jam. Yep. Oh gosh, don't get me started on Meat, honey. Meat. I'm just going to say this, and then I'll shut up about Meat. Meat probably got me through high school, along with some other guys. Well, that's a whole other show. No, along with some other bands, Loggins and Messina. Discovered them when I was probably 13, and a little album called On Stage. And I think I also discovered Boone's Farm Strawberry Apple Wine, or Strawberry, what was the name of that wine that we high school kids drank? If you didn't drink Pearl Beer or Billy Beer or Pabst Blue Ribbon or whatever else somebody could, get you, your big brother could get you, you were drinking Boone's Farm. But anyway, Loggins and Messina and Meatloaf. Meatloaf taught me how to sing. Incredible. Jim Steinman was incredible. Crazy as a loon, but so good. What a great story. Absolutely love Meat. We've talked about him here on the show a couple of times, and absolutely love him. So there's that. All right, so the next one, when you talk about haunted castles, right, you automatically think of the ruins in Scotland or Ireland, or Hampton Court with Henry VIII, or all these different castles. And that's why I pulled up a couple of them there that you may have not heard about. I know I hadn't. I'm, by no means an expert in these. We all, like I said in the beginning, we all kind of hear the same type of stories, like, somebody running around looking for their head, or, this or that, but we don't know how deep the stories go. So when I was going through this, I found some old documentaries again, and one of them it just tickled me. It was absolutely fantastic, and I have the name of it here. It was Things That Go Bump in the Night. Now, I remember seeing this briefly, just flashes of it, and I think it was the host, and just again, the way they did the stories. So I thought we'd do a castle. Castles could be everywhere. Now, I don't know what constitutes a castle. Does it have to be made of stone? Did it have to be a fortress? Did it have to have a moat? Did it have to have a drawbridge? Did it have to have an army? Because there's some homes and, of course, hotels and things like that would constitute as almost castles. Like, so many that we hear of now that are haunted, right? So this was a really good story. Plus, it kind of fit the whole genre of the documentaries and stuff, and the timing. And I just thought the host was just as cute as a bug. So I'm going to share it with you. Here's another one. I hope you like it. A dragon. Wait, what? Boone's Farm tasted good. You know what? It did. And strawberry wine. Oof. My goodness. Yep. Good headache.
Spooks, phantoms, poltergeists. Some seek them out. Most seek to be protected from them, as evidenced in this early Cornish prayer. Dear Lord, protect us from ghoulies and ghosties and long-leggedy beasties and things that go bump in the night. Good evening. I'm James Doohan. They've been called ghost stories, legends, myths, and total inventions of an overworked imagination. Whatever they are, tonight we will explore them all. So sit tight and keep a candle burning as we crawl from the safety of a warm bed, slide the bolt, and swing open the door. Tonight we will track, unearth, and embrace those things that go bump in the night.
I'm telling you, man, get your popcorn. You cannot beat this shit. Honest to God. Is that not great? Scotty! It's great.
Talk to anybody, then just whisper the word ghost. In seconds, you'll be immersed in a tale of unexplainable occurrence, one that appears to completely defy rational explanation. Everybody, everywhere, has a ghost story. Alberta's Rocky Mountains, as beautiful as they are mysterious. In 1885, the government of Canada set aside just over 2,500 square miles in the heart of this pristine wilderness, creating Canada's first national park.
Sir John A. Macdonald, who piloted the bill through Parliament to establish the park, saw it as a spa along European lines where the wealthy would come to spend periods of time to take the waters, to relax and enjoy the scenery and the surrounding area.
Each year, the park enjoyed more and more visitors, and it wasn't long before the Canadian Pacific Railroad built the 843-room Banff Springs Hotel. By 1928, it was recognized as one of the world's best. Its reputation built on fine foods, lavish accommodations, and impeccable service. Its guest list from many of its many generations reads like who's who.
Earlier in the century, royalty were the epitome of stardom. The King of Siam in the early 1920s was thought to be a very famous person. People who were famous in the music world, people like Benny Goodman and radio, Jack Benny. And of course, movie stars have always been in this area. Many movies have been made here. Many famous movie stars have visited here, right up to Marilyn Monroe, who made some movies in this area. Alan Ladd, people of their vintage, and right up to Clint Eastwood and so on, people like that in the current day. For each period of time, the people who were famous at that time did come to Banff, and they still do.
Over its nearly 100-year history, the Banff Springs Hotel has enjoyed catering to the high life, and sometimes, as legend has it, to the afterlife. Along these majestic halls float stories as timeless and haunting as the hotel itself. One of the most intriguing is that of Sam Macaulay, affectionately known as the helpful bellman.
Sam was a bit of a character. He was a people person. He always was clowning. He was entertaining people. He had white hair. He had a Scottish accent, and he was always in the public spaces, greeting the guests, and a very jovial and happy person when he was working.
Not content to serve the hotel's population only in life, it is said that Sam continues to serve the guests of this great hotel 40 years after his death.
Before his death, he vowed that he would come back and haunt the hotel. And of course, the staff that knew him just chuckled and laughed.
One evening, a new bellman worked the hotel desk alone for the first time. He was feeling a little overwhelmed, doing his very best to accommodate each new request.
Go, bellman. Yes.
Two ladies who were waiting on the 9th floor, they tried to access their room with their key, and it wasn't working, and that called for a night lock, and the night man was very busy, and he mentioned that he apologized, but he'd be up there as soon as possible.
Minutes later, an elderly gentleman came to the aid of the two women.
Hi, you've been calling for a while, and we can't get into our room.
I have a key with me.
Okay, that's great.
There you are, lady.
Thank you very much.
Then he quickly went on his way. Later, when the young bellman made his way to the women's room, he found them already comfortably inside and was informed that the other bellman had helped them.
Good evening, miss.
Good evening.
Oh, I see that you're all settled in.
Yes.
How did you get in?
An older gentleman let us in.
After recounting the story to his supervisor, the young bellman was informed that the only person that fit that description was Sam. To this day, employees of the hotel say that Sam continues to help anyone in need, guest and staff alike.
We work graveyards. We all take turns, and when you're walking, the hotel's very quiet, and when you're walking down the hall, a lot of times the elevator opens up for you. You go inside, floors pushed that you want to go to, and it happens so many times. It's pretty strange. I just don't know.
Another mysterious tale from the spring's hallowed halls involves a beautiful bride, a winding staircase, and a tragic accident, now known forever as the legend of the burning bride. It was the perfect day for the perfect spring wedding, set in the most magnificent surroundings.
The incident that took place there in the early 30s of the daughter, and it was the only daughter of a very prominent family in Calgary, and the parents of this young lady were personal friends of the then manager of the Banff Springs Hotel.
A lavish affair in the true 1930s style. Calgary's social elite had gathered to celebrate.
The day arrived, day something like today, early June bride, many people, and the ceremony was to take place in the oval room overlooking the Bow Valley.
Following the nuptials, the wedding's reception was to be held in the Rob Roy dining room, one floor below. But this happy occasion was to have a quick and tragic end. As the young bride descended the candlelit staircase, she lost her footing. As she fell, the flames of the candles caught the hem of her wedding gown. Before her terrified new husband and hundreds of horror-stricken wedding guests, she met her tragic end.
But it was a very, very tragic day in the life of the family, and a very, very tragic day for the hotel.
Afterwards, the hotel manager, vowing that no one would ever suffer such a tragedy again, had the great stone staircase sealed forever.
Today, 60 years later, that staircase is still closed.
Exactly 1 year later to the day, a hotel staff member reported seeing an iridescent phantom, a woman dressed in white, dancing the wedding waltz that death had so spitefully stolen.
Well, how much do you love that? That little ghost at the end is my absolute favorite. It couldn't be more perfect with the cat on the grandfather clock and the spooky armor with the lightning bugs in it, you know. So cool. But they got him in the end. They turned off his light and they took him off to the void, to the unseelie fae. So it's a cute little ghost. Well, there's that. Yeah, the burning bride. Now in here, you guys were saying, Gray, did you've been there? You said, and you said something about a room. I missed it here, but you said something about a room was boarded up, and you said that it was possible that somebody had killed himself in there. And did you see the staircase that was all shut up? I mean, the bride. Can you? I can't imagine. I can't even wrap my head around. Here comes the bride down the stairs, loses her footing, catches fire on the candles, comes tumbling down. Horrific. On her wedding day, all the family there to see it. Are you kidding me? I mean, tragic doesn't even touch that, you know. Of course she'd be a ghost. And I felt a little better there at the end where, you know, I don't know, is she forever dancing on the dance floor? You know, she never even got her first dance. I mean, you know, I can't even, you know. Let's talk about the Bellman. And the fact that Scotty was probably inspired by Spock, Leonard Nimoy. I'm gonna get me a paranormal show too, and he went out there and boy, he did a bang up job. It's actually, again, it's called Things That Go Bump in the Night. There's very few episodes out there on YouTube. I looked in Rumble and BitChute and a couple other ones, and there's like not much. So if you guys, you know, come across that, or if it's a, you know, it's not going to be in a gift set or an episode pack because they would have copyrighted it. Again, this was one that was just tossed and, you know, thrown out. And again, I wish Steve was here for this, but I see that he's in the chat. Hello, love, you old rattlesnake. And because I know you love this stuff. And had you ever heard of the Burning Bride or I like the Bellman. I love the Bellman, that he's in there and he's helping people with their keys and letting them into the rooms and just, you know, keeping up and doing what he's doing. I mean, I've heard so many stories about elevator operators and bellmen and maids that go into the room, and of course we've all heard that where they, you know, make the beds up or tear the beds down or all these kind of things. Is there, Black Dragon, another tale of another burning bride? I have one in my book. I think Steve had one, or we had two that we were comparing or something like that. I can't quite remember, but I believe it was a comparison one where oh yeah, it's the one where the bride, I think, committed suicide after seeing her maid of honor and her fiance, soon to be groom, like within an hour, making out by a tree or something, and she hung herself again on the stairs. And but now she comes to all the different brides like that are getting married there, and if there's something going on, you know, like the bride, I guess, again, this is one of those ghosts that can kind of see into your energy and pick up to that kind of thing. Maybe she's drawn to brides that are questioning the fidelity of their, you know, their betrothed. I don't know. It's just guesses at this point, but she actually does come to brides and lead them. This one story, this is the one that I put in the book, that actually led her down the stairs, like, come follow me, and showed her out the window that her, again, the groom was kind of hitting up on one of the bridesmaids or one of the guests at the wedding, whatever, and she called it off. And of course, that one didn't fling herself over the stairs and kill herself. But gosh, I think bride stories are so, because there's supposed to be so much hope, you know, and so much love and all this. You don't expect that tragedy to happen right then. You know, there's so many jilted brides or people that were left at the altar. Usually it's the bride. Has anybody ever heard of the groom that got left at the altar and something tragic happen like that, it's always the bride, right? And it's always in the wedding dress, and it's always, that kind of thing, and it's always tragic. So, but that's amazing, Gray, that you went there. It's a beautiful place, is it not? And to me, I would say that that's a castle. Now again, I could be wrong because I don't know the exact definition. Does it have to have a moat? Does it have to have an army, like I said in the beginning? To me, that's a castle, and it's up on a hill, and or a mountain, and it's just, so it's the high ground, like so many of them were. And I absolutely thought it deserved mentioning here tonight. Two great stories. You can't beat how they're talking about their accounts. I always have no problem believing the people that, and I can almost hear Blue rolling his eyes right now. It's like, I get you. But when I'm listening to these, more so in these days than I do now, when I can watch something like this now where they have the little box and somebody, they're talking about a video they're watching, or they're talking about their experience, I don't get the same feeling nowadays as I do looking at these people telling these stories. In most of these cases, most of them, I absolutely have no problem believing them. They absolutely believe what they're saying, or it happened. And they went through all of this in that time to bring it forward. There's a couple. I have a problem with some of the Sally House stuff, and I still have problems with the Amityville thing. I look at that a little bit different. Not saying anything about anybody, just saying I look at it different. I looked at it from both sides now, like that song. What is that about clouds? I've looked at clouds from both sides now, and some things I take an extra look at, and some of the things that I thought I was 100% correct on, I've had to pull back. I guess that comes with time and realizing you don't know shit most of the time. We're so convinced sometimes of something, and we're absolutely, and then the last thing flips us, and I think over time we kind of sit back and maybe not so quick to judge on stuff. But I think those are absolutely wonderful stories. It's a great show. I wish I could have found more of that one. And if I find some in the future, we'll certainly bring Scotty to the forefront and show him off with Leonard Nimoy. But speaking of Leonard, I've got a little Leonard. You want a little Leonard haunted castle? Who doesn't? So we'll go back up here. Now, that was Canada, and I promised you kind of a trip around the world. Part of it's going to be tonight, and then we're going to have a layover, and then it'll be tomorrow night too, because I absolutely had some stories. I want Steve's input on all this stuff, but some of the ones I held back for tomorrow night, and some of those are in England, and we're going to do a little England over here now tonight too. So we're going to have to go back and forth. There's going to be a lot of traveling. And but it's going to be worth it, and I wanted to say something before I play this Leonard so I don't forget. But I was thinking while I was doing this week that, we've talked about it a couple times, that during all this like crazy, fist this world's been making for the past couple of years, we spent a lot of time maybe saving money and spending time with the kids, or maybe had to change your, you've got more family with you now, or you've changed your family dynamic. Maybe you're watching the grandkids more, or you got, neighborhood kids that, you're involved in, or whatever your situation may be. If you're in a situation like that where you're trying to find a way, even if it's, like on the theme of a book club, and you get together and you're all reading the same book, and then you get together to talk about it. That's kind of cool. It's just a different way of socializing. But this is something I did when I homeschooled my sons. And it was something that I enjoyed so much. And this will make sense. Just bear with me here for a minute. If you pick a day, we used to pick a day, and something that in history or a timeline that we were learning, and if there was an accent, we tried to speak that way to each other to be fun. If it was like, say, if we were doing, like I put in the video there, I bid you good morrow. I bid you good day. Maybe eat the foods that they had then, or do something the way they did it. So it could be any timeline and whatsoever. One of my favorites, here's an idea. One of my favorites was I think I had a real bee under my bonnet about, and certainly don't want to get a discussion about this, but it makes sense. Back in the day, when I think my youngest was around in the second or third grade, there's a thing going around where they weren't going to teach cursive anymore, and I just said, well, somebody doesn't want people to be able to read the old documents and old journals, and and also to be lazy, because I always looked at it again at a different vantage point. Looked at clouds from both sides. Now I looked at the way penmanship was honored during the Civil War and in the journals. You may not have had a stellar education, but through your penmanship and your vocabulary and your grammar and the way you spoke and the way you spoke to others and the way you put your thoughts out showed an air of education, and also a self-respect in a way, and also a respect for the person you were speaking to. You kind of get my drift? And it was so important. Even young soldiers writing letters home on the battlefield in the Civil War or the Revolutionary War would take heed in how they wrote and spoke. Yeah, respect, absolutely, Aunt Edna. And a love for the penmanship as well. It is, Linda, you're right. Cursive is so personal and lovely, absolutely. So anyway, it kind of got me a little miffed. So I was going to be sure that I worked this in somehow. And we were studying Declaration of Independence, and the whole thing. The whole thing in that era around Philadelphia and Independence Hall, and the writers and the signers and the talkers and the doers that were up there, and something about their signatures always kind of got me, like the big John Hancock, that when he signed it, supposedly he said so King George can read it without his spectacles, put it right in the middle of it. And signature, yeah, absolutely, Linda, your signature was so important, the way you sign it. Mine is like big and bold and crazy. But so anyway, we talked about it and what it meant, and how certain people really flourished, and the way JFK signed, even in that timeline, the way JFK signed his, and we talked all about that. And then we picked the time. How did they sign their documents? What did they do? So that day they went out, and we had a lot of wild turkeys, we had a lot of wild turkey feathers, we had all this other stuff. So we made quills, and I had them make their own ink out of berries, and they went through that whole process. And then I had them come up with their own signature. First, they picked a signature that they wanted to kind of mimic. And I think one of them chose George Washington, one of them Ben Franklin. We picked a couple to mimic. And then they came up with their own flourish, their own personal signature. And I told them the story, kind of like Native American names that change along with you as your character changes. I said, your signature, you're making your foundation base of your signature now. You signed so many important documents. To me, that's what it meant. Now you just, electronic signature on a piece of paper, but you know what I mean? Is signing letters and cards and things like that also. So, and it was fun, and they got a respect for it, and a little bit more respect when they saw things like monks who did calligraphy and these beautiful Bibles, and with all the beautiful calligraphy work and stuff like that, and they gained a respect for it. And then I told them the most important part: don't ever let anybody take that away from you. You have to learn how to write cursive, and you have to read cursive, just the same way as getting a digital watch didn't cease your need to be able to tell time with hands on a clock, or a clock that had no numbers, or a sundial for that matter. Don't ever let anybody take that away from you. Get all the knowledge, and if they don't want you to learn something, go learn it twice as well. So that's where that took me. So if you can do that, if you can do a day with the grandkids or the kids, or just, a group, and you pick a day and you just kind of pay homage to that time, it's not only fun, but it takes you out of your world a little bit. It takes you out of what's going on and all this other stuff, and it makes you appreciate it, especially if you can go back and do something without electricity, or you do something without baking bread from scratch, and maybe, doing tea biscuits and having a noon a tea at 3 o'clock. Did I get the time right? It's around 3 o'clock that you guys in the UK or for tea. But that kind of thing, and having a biscuit and calling them biscuits instead of cookies, and maybe watching a series or something that is of that time period, and trying to speak and stuff like that. It takes you out of your world for a little bit, and I think it makes you appreciate both worlds even more. So that's what this stuff does to me. It goes back and it does the nostalgia, but it also helps me not let it die, not let it be extinct. The same way as your signature and writing, and still learning how to shake a man's hand, and look a person in the eye when you speak to them and stuff like that. We got to keep that going. Let's not let that die. We don't need an emoji to replace emotion. We still have emotion. Don't let them tell you don't. So there's that. Leonard Nimoy, what do you say? How about some haunted castles? I just dig this stuff. I love you all so much. Thanks. I didn't mean to go off like that, but I thought when I was doing this week that it took me away and made me, the biggest thing I came away with was, I'm really glad I don't live in a drafty castle. I'm super, super glad I don't live in medieval times, and I'm really, really, really glad and grateful that I'm not a princess or a prince or a king or a queen, or especially one of these like 13-year-old queens that, you're ruling. All of a sudden somebody dies and you're ruling a whole country, and everybody wants to kill you. Everybody, trust no one. And, how horrible some of this stuff was. We think about lavish things. I just got done watching The Gilded Age. It was a great show on HBO. I watched it for like the stocks and the robber barons and the different subtle blackmail and offers you can't refuse kind of thing. It's been going on eons, whether it's in the mafia or the stock or Wall Street. They're all they're all hooligans and thieves and businessmen, and it's just different names. It's all the same game. But anyway, that was great, and it very the historic time of it all. And I think we talked about it last week, how at the same time I watched 1883 going on at the same time, 1882 in New York, 1883 on the Oregon Trail. Same time, two totally different worlds, So like Canada, we were here in this. Now I think Leonard is going to take us to across the pond. Let's see where he takes us. I hope you enjoy it.
The English countryside has been populated by so many people for so long a time that it has acquired a rich legacy of spirits and ghosts. A 200-year-old monarch may pace the library of a great fortress. Henry VIII, we are told, still drags his gout-ridden foot through broken cloisters and cobwebbed passages.
Best line in any movie ever. Just saying.
Long dead prisoners plead for mercy in empty dungeons. Ancient druids still haunt Stonehenge. Guillotine victims ride across the rolling plains carrying their severed heads. Every generation has added its ghostly collection of vampires, phantoms, and monsters of the netherworld. Today, a roll call of specters stretches the length of the kingdom. Perhaps it is the willingness of its citizens to believe in the supernatural. Whatever the cause, Great Britain, wrote one expert, is the most haunted place on Earth. Ghosts have a tendency to stay in one place, usually the location of their demise. Since most English castles were built many centuries ago, the apparitions that haunt them have had enough time to scare enough people to become legends. The people who own these castles continue to live in them. Strange sights and hideous noises are considered part of the bargain, along with poor plumbing and drafty rooms. Ghosts are accepted as eccentric members of the family, and in many cases, they were just that before they died. At Wolverton Manor, for example, we encounter the very rowdy ghost of Lord Thomas Trenchard. His story is told by his descendant, Captain Thimbleby.
In the early 18th century, Thomas Trenchard, after, no doubt, a very good dinner party, with a lot of port in his belly, had a wager with his friend that he could take a horse and carriage up the great stairs, which he indeed did. And in fact, some of the stairs have been repaired where the edges have been chipped off. How on earth he got down again, one doesn't know, but he won his wager, and we hear him going up the stairs every now and again over the years.
The strange part of Wolverton Manor's ghostly carriage is that it has never been known to return down the stairs. So much for noisy apparitions. Authentic English ghosts are not known to physically attack people. On numerous occasions, however, they have frightened someone to death. This happened on a lovely country estate in Dorset, and the story is told to us by Emma Leavesley.
My family had owned this house for more than 400 years, I think. And there were legends that something monstrous appeared in the middle of the night and was so frightening that two of my ancestors had actually gone mad after they'd seen it. I hated sleeping there. I used to dread going to bed because I would always have nightmares there, and I'd wake up in the middle of the night and think they were real, and there was definitely something horrible about it. Anyway, one night when my grandmother was a very little girl, which was about 1880 or 1890, she and her sister were living in this house, my grandmother at one end of a corridor, and her sister at the other end, probably the same room that I was in, maybe even the same bed. One night, they went to bed perfectly normally, having said goodnight to each other. And what happened next, no one knows for certain, but it was obviously absolutely horrifying. My grandmother rushed down the corridor to see what was happening. As she opened the door, she thought she caught a glance of something so horrible that she nearly fainted. But it disappeared almost immediately. The worst thing was that when she looked at the bed, her sister had stopped screaming and she was just lying there dead. I hate it as a story, and I wish she'd never told me, really, because I still have nightmares about it, and I'm sure I feel something that poor girl went through when I've slept in that room.
In most hauntings, sounds are more common than sightings, and ghostly rituals are usually performed by a single figure. But in our next dramatization, both sights and sounds occur, and two 18th century Englishmen are locked together for for eternity. Robin Wordsworth owns Bag Lake House and keeps alive the story of the double tragedy that took place in 1759.
There was a man who lived here once called Squire William Light, and he had the front of this house built onto an older house in 1719. This we know for a fact. The rest of the story is really legend. The idea is that Squire Light came home from hunting, perhaps a little drunk.
The water was shallow, but deep enough to drown a drunken squire. The squire's groom went searching for his long overdue master. The groom's wife found him near the pond. He told her his monstrous tale, then died.
That's the story, and it's still believed in the village. People don't care to walk past this house at night, the younger people. And during the 40 years I've been here, quite a number of level-headed people have felt disturbances of various kinds and seen things and heard footsteps which can't be accounted for.
After years of horrible, unexplained sounds, the local priest attempted to exorcise both Squire Light and the groom from the household. His efforts were partially successful. Local citizens believe that the squire is now confined to the chimney and moans complainingly when the wind blows. The groom, however, lingers outside and faithfully calls his master. Those who share the squire's taste for whiskey claim that they see his specter rising from the pond when the moon is full. As we shall learn in our next story, they should be thankful that he doesn't scream.
Well, there you go. There's a little bit of Leonard in there. I love the comments. The ascot, the plaid jacket, uh, all the people in here, amazing. The Phantom Ghost carriage going up the stairs. I've heard that one before, and they show you the steps where the wheels. I mean, to do that to horses, first of all, it was just horrifying for me to hear that. But it doesn't come down, and it's incredible. I mean, I think if I stood in front of those steps, I think that almost, it's not that it bothers me more than the bride. I know if I saw the steps and I know the bride fell down, I would just be mortified. Of course, anytime you go into a place and they say somebody was killed there, and, you know, through all these stories, there's the priest that was in the chapel that was praying and they came up behind him and killed him. You know, there's just so many different things, and they call it the bloody chapel now. Everything's the bloody chapel, the bloody tower, the bloody room, the bloody stairs. You know, I mean, it's just, there's so many of these stories. It's compounded on each other. But that one really gets me with the horses, because, you know, what are you doing? It's just, you know, it's so much. Hey, thank you so much, Gray. I appreciate that so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you for saying that, put the thumbs up. I appreciate it so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It all goes towards StreamYard. And they keep bugging me and telling me, well, you need to buy more room. I'm like, no, I don't. They're up on YouTube. I'm going to take them and put them over on Rumble and start a channel there too. But there's like not a chat and stuff. I just want people to be able to see this stuff, because if I do nothing else, it's put these shows out. And I just saw a show the other day. I lost a friend, a wonderful man, had a wonderful YouTube channel, and he popped up in my suggestions, and we lost him 10 months ago. And his stuff is still out there. And he's still, everything he said then is still profound now. And I just listened to him again, and I thought, oh, how nice it was, you know, that he got to do this and put it out there. I've always been real big on recording your grandparents' stories, you know, for the great-grandkids and, you know, that kind of stuff. I love those museums where you can go up and you can hit the button and you can hear the person tell their story, you know, whatever genre it might be. It's just so great, you know. But he, you know, he left that behind, his wisdom, his thoughts, his jokes, his laughter, all of that's there, and it's so cool. And so did these people. And I feel so good about being able to bring this. And AJK is right. It's absolutely all on YouTube. It's, if you put in search of haunted castles, you'll get like 10 different YouTube channels that they just play the whole thing. So you'll be able to see the whole thing. Thank you, sweetie. I appreciate all that. Honestly, I do. You know, like people, that's the thing is, I forget what, it was a kid's show that came on, and it said something about that person lives on, as long as they're not forgotten in other people's hearts. And I think this is a way to, I couldn't tell you that gentleman's name that was telling the story about how, you know, seemingly straight-minded people have seen things and tell stories, and, you know, how he just very English sat back and just said, you know, well, you know, they're telling me stories, or just may be, well, this is, you know, people don't like to walk in front of the house, you know, that kind of thing. You know, I appreciate all the love. Thank you so much. And so anyhow, it's their way of leaving that legacy too. And I just think that it's just kicked to the back room on some of this stuff. Some of this stuff is absolutely gold, you know, absolutely gold. Thank you so much. So yeah, at the end of these, I'm putting all these different things. That's why I did the horse at the end of the one on Canada, where he was kind of like, he got the ghost horse, kind of got the last kick, you know, and he wasn't struggling to get up the stairs, or some of these other horrible things we've done to animals, you know. That's like the hardest thing to watch in an old Western and stuff like that. I just want to beat the shit out of the guy who's beating the hell out of the horse. And I probably would have. And in another life, I probably did, you know, because I'm just not, I don't think I would have stood for that in any life. But anyway, so that's Leonard. Now, here's a fun thing. Henry VIII He's, of course, his castle, and it was so extravagant and so many levels and so many dastardly things happened. And, I am no expert on Henry VIII for sure. But the things that you guys have seen a lot, you notice, you could probably picture him. If I asked you to describe him, you'd probably describe him as, a burly man. Obviously, the absolute poster child for rich and excessive and, taking his power, whichever direction you look in, excessive across the board, right? Whether it was his food, his castle, his parties, his running through wives like crazy. The first one, I forget her name, and I'm sorry, I don't have it written down. I don't want to get it wrong. He was married to her for like 20 years, but, he wasn't getting a son, so let's, annul that or get rid of her. Is that the one that he wanted to divorce and the church wouldn't let him divorce, so he started the Church of England. It's just, well, just start a new religion and a new church, and then put himself in charge of it, and, so he could get a divorce and get married. And then if he didn't do that, he'd, behead them. But each story you get into, it's so easy to say it, just repeating the story. But then you get into, like, you start getting into, some of these young girls' stories and how they wound up there. And, like, they never even, this one, she was sent over because of politics. Let's your kingdom and my kingdom will get together. Yeah, jolly old psychopath, Micah, absolutely. But he was also, I had no idea, when he was younger, he was seen as the epitome of athleticism. He was good at everything he did, whether it was archery or hunting or whatever the activities were back in the day. That they did. I don't think they were throwing telephone poles. That was Scottish. Meat and haggis. But just everything he did, he was good at. And he was, when men were 5'8", 5'9" on the average, he was, well over 6 foot. So that was kind of, I was surprised at that. I was surprised to see some of the younger pictures of him. Now, I'm not doing a big expose on him, but I thought it was very interesting when I started digging that he ruled for so long, and it was such an influence on everything that was going on around him, and it echoed out because you had all of that trading and stuff going on. Spices were coming in, new and exotic meats from other lands, and stuff like that. And they were really big on trying all those things. You also see them really kind of without manners. I mean, a lot of that medieval stuff that I see, well, it's not really medieval at that time, but anyway, you see a lot of that, and they're like eating, and they're sloppy and gross, and I think they were sloppy and gross, but when they were eating, it was a little bit more. That's when the rituals started to happen. The presentation, the setting out of things, the spices in the food, the new and different food, roasted meats were huge. So I thought it would be fun if I did just a little bit, because it's really hard to imagine what does it look like in some of these castles. In a lot of places you can't really get the tours unless it's an old documentary that somebody's just tossed out and doesn't care about anymore. So I wanted to grab this. Now, this one is part of Hampton Court's actual documentaries that were from back in the day. So if you want to see the whole thing, there are multiple things on the site that is named Hampton Court Chronicles YouTube. And they go around and they videotape a lot of the events that are happening at Hampton Court. And so many things, because it is so well preserved at Hampton Court. They do a lot of things there, like these TV shows, if you've ever seen them, where it says like 20 a week as a Victorian family, or a week as a medieval farmer, or that kind of stuff. They do a lot of that kind of stuff there. Kind of your reality, programmed programs. But anyhow, they do a lot of that. So this company goes in and records a lot of that, and I got you a little piece of it, and I thought it'd be fun just to see a little bit of what it looked like in this castle that we're talking about, how it looks today, and how they try to keep it looking like it did then. So I thought that would be a nice little segue, and then I've got some more Leonard Nimoy in search of for you. Okay, here we go. Let me start that again. I think that jumped. There we go. Look at that place, guys. Look at this. Look at the gardens.
The kitchens of Henry VIII at Hampton Court Palace are the largest surviving Renaissance kitchens in Europe, occupying 1/3 of the ground floor of the palace. That's 36,000 square feet. They have become internationally famous as the home of Tudor food. Today, they are home to a unique project, a team of food historians who have been given the challenge to learn from actually using them as they would have been used 500 years ago. For about 50 days a year, the kitchens come back to life. Starting with recipe research, surviving cookbooks are compared with lists of food ordered by the court 500 years ago. Then the kitchens are filled with the right equipment: pots, bowls, platters, knives, cauldrons, spits, pestles and mortars. Even the furniture has been researched and reconstructed. Finally, the same cookery techniques are used: roasting, boiling, frying and baking. And all this in the actual rooms that were used to cook food for the court of King Henry VIII, the legendary consumer of both food and women. It would be better to describe them as a food factory than a kitchen. The numbers are just staggering. The court, the people living and working with the king, would often number 600, and they were fed twice a day. We would have trouble organising all that today with motor transport and refrigeration. But it functioned 500 years ago using an army of cooks and clerks, river transport and carts. Ingredients arrived raw and unprocessed at the kitchen gates, where an army of kitchen staff were set to work, chopping, grinding, sieving and mixing. Once the raw ingredients had been prepared by the kitchen staff, they could go on to become meals. The kitchens were divided up like a factory, each section doing a single job that would become part of the meal. Bakehouses for bread, pastry rooms for pie making, boiling houses to prepare stews and pie fillings, a confectionery to make all manner of sweet stuff, and the final part of the kitchens, the roasting rooms. Real roast meat has lost its Tudor status. For meat to be roasted, it has to be put on a spit and turned before a fire, not baked in an oven like we do today. The roast meat meant you were royally rich, and all your guests would have known it, especially if they were served a swan or a peacock. You roasted fresh meat, a luxury when most of the Tudor world ate theirs cured, smoked, salted or pickled in brine. And it uses lots more fuel. You even have to pay the spit turner's wages. In fact, every dish was a statement of wealth from your host, the king. Court food was all about imagery. Your guests were educated people. They knew that if you could afford spices, it meant that you'd paid for them to be brought halfway around the world on a ship from the Orient. Sweets of boiled, cast, coloured and shaped sugar were the ultimate sign of wealth. So much so that they even covered some of them in pure gold. Imagine that, eating the king's gold. Subtleties, elegant table decorations in shapes as extravagant as castles, ships and saints, were made by a team of skilled artists and designed to amuse and wow the guests. Henry VIII's kitchens at Hampton Court Palace are a remarkable survival from a bygone age. They help us to link the history of wars, politics and paintings with the real lives of those who lived, worked and ate here, both rich and poor. Let's face it, everyone has to eat.
Look at that. The Great Hall. I do love my ghosties. How about that? What a treat, right? Can you imagine? Now, here's some scuttlebutt I got from back in the kitchen, right? Okay, so there's all of these beautiful, huge fireplaces you saw. They were famous for the roasted meat. And you saw the spigot. Now, well, you know, the wrought iron spigot that you put, the roaster. So there was at least 8 of those. So you had to have people standing there turning those. You know, they don't show that. This is all day. How long does it take to cook a turkey or, you know, chicken, or they're talking peacocks and all this other stuff. So there's, every time Henry VIII moved from one place to another, when he went from one place to another, the whole town went with him. He basically had like, 300 close people that would eat in the Great Hall. And then he had another 600 to 900 that they had to have in that castle to take care of everything. So, from everything from the carriages to going to pick up the food, to dropping the food at the back, cleaning the chickens, doing the stuff. Just imagine all the way through, right up to, linens and serving and cleaning up, and God, whoever had the latrine duty on that one. And I've gone in all these tours trying to find out stuff, a lot of which I couldn't share with you, but a lot of these, this one lady that walks through, and I hope to get a piece of this. I want to promote her channel because she's fantastic, but she goes through and she shows you where all these bathrooms are. And the bathrooms are basically, as you're walking down the hall, there'll be a nook cutout, right? It almost looks like a fireplace. And then there's just a board with 2 big holes cut in it, right? So no doors, no, just a hallway with a cutout, a little divot, almost looks like a fireplace with a board and 2 holes, and that was it. And it just dropped right down to the bottom. And then there was people on duty down there that would shovel it out and barrel it out and send it out, probably outside the gate, just dumped it over into the moat or whatever they did with it, or dumped it on the peasants, or God only knows what they did with it. It was horrible. But that was for sure a nasty. But those great halls and everything, the way Henry VIII was, is everything had to be the new thing. And right around then, people were really getting on him because of his, as you saw in that thing, I wish I could find that sentence. I actually wrote it down. It was the best sentence I ever heard. Who's dragging his gout-ridden foot through cobweb cobblestones and corridor or whatever. It was so funny. But here's the gross part about it. He was probably diabetic. He was really into the sugar, as you saw with all the sugar, the wonderful artistry that they were doing out of the sugar stuff, making big old castles and all this kind of stuff, and actually had real gold. They drank wine with gold in it. It was all of this, just, this stuff. See, if they had only done silver, they probably wouldn't have died of the plague, but, that's an herbalist joke. I hope you got it. About. And you know what? There was royalty that did eat on silver and did survive many of the plagues that took out people, and they found out it was because they used silver. Ta-da-da. And that's a fact. Because when you cook in that, the silver gets in the food, the silver gets in you, and it's one of the best antiviral, antibacterial things out there, so that was completely by accident, but that and the garlic kind of kept a lot of those clans alive. So, so here's Henry VIII thinking he was doing the best by drinking the gold, and he should have gone with the silver that the peasants probably get. But at that time, they were probably eating on pewter. You saw a lot of that going on in that kitchen. But amazing. So now there's these 8 great big in the roasting room. And the cool thing was, if you got that gig, I guess you're really glad to have that gig, because you wouldn't want to be the latrine guy, right? But can you imagine the heat? Okay? The heat coming out of these things. There's 8 of them in a room. There's no windows. They even painted the walls white so these people could stay up all night cooking. And, they ate twice a day, 2 big meals a day, and they lasted for hours. So, really strange. But these poor guys in the roasting room, right? Well, back then it was safer to drink beer and wine than it was water. We know that from our pirate episode, right? So you were allowed, everybody in the roasting room got what would be the equivalent of 1 gallon of beer each for the day, for the time that they were in that room for that time period, however long they were there. That's what their quota was. But the guy twisting the roaster that had to stand next to and keep the chickens turning, the one that had that job, he could have all the beer he wanted all day long, no limit. So there you go. There were perks back then, even in King Henry VIII's court. There you go. I thought that was so interesting. The rules, right? To think about something like that, but it was nothing to just, lop off a wife's head just so you can get with the next one. But, I think it was worse for these girls that got off these ships. That one story, oh gosh, this poor girl, she never even saw him beforehand. She gets there, they get married like an hour after her foot hit dirt, and they said that this man had ulcers all over his legs that you could smell from 3 rooms away. So, getting your head cut off or marrying King Henry VIII in that shape, I don't know. I think I'd probably run away with the latrine guy or the beer dude turning the thing. There had to be a way. Those are your only 2 choices. I don't know. But anyway, I digress. So there's a little bit of King Henry VIII. Nice treat to at least see what these grand, halls look like. I'm going to get you some more that actually shows you where Anne Boleyn runs down the hall. They say she's looking for a head. I don't believe that that's what's happening. I think she's recreating when she did get away from her guards. She wanted to plead her case to her husband. It makes me sick just to even think of that. But anyway, he was in his chapel praying. Of course he was. And she actually made it to the door and ran down the hallway, made it to the chapel door, was banging on the chapel door, screaming for his forgiveness, begging for his forgiveness, because she had an adulterous affair before they were married and during, supposedly. There's a long story to that, but that's where we're at right there. And she was going to beg him for forgiveness to spare her life. And the guards pulled her away screaming, and I think she's recreating that. There was one that kept running away from the block before she got her head cut off. I don't believe that was her. And that one got away twice, and they chased her down and brought her back, and she got away again. Can you imagine the horror of this? I mean, the things that we do to each other, it just, it's like we don't learn from history, right? So, on a lighter note, if that's even possible at this point, here's our favorite turtleneck blazer wearing Leonard again to bring us. This one is not a castle, but it is England, and not all of England's ghosts are in castles, but I think the most precious point of this one, there's a couple of good points made here in the stories, but I think the most precious thing here is when Leonard Nimoy says pantaloons. So enjoy. Here we are in search of spooky England. It's a short one, but it's a good one.
The ghosts of England are not restricted to drafty castles and lonely country estates. In the very heart of London, a 17th century cavalier, replete with plumed hat and pantaloons, resides in, of all places, a wine cellar. In some form, a tavern has operated here for at least 3 centuries. Currently, it is called the George Inn. Bill Grundy is a documentary filmmaker for the British Broadcasting Corporation.
It was the summer of 1975. I'd just finished making a series of television films about the ghosts of London. And I came in here for a drink, and the landlord came over to me, and he said, like the films, pity you didn't do our ghost. I said, you got one here in the George Inn? He said, yes, we have. I said, do you believe in ghosts? He said, no, but my wife does. I asked him to explain. He said, well, we've been here for years, and there'd been no trouble at all, but one day, between 10 and 11 in the morning, anyway, before we opened, he said, my wife went downstairs into the cellar, and she came rushing back up, all white and trembling, and said, I'm never going in the cellar again. She said, it's a fellow down there. I said, we're not open yet. There can't be a man down there. And she said, no, this isn't an ordinary fellow. He's dressed like a cavalier, and he's standing in the corner of the barrel vaulting there. My wife still doesn't go down that cellar.
Grundy contacted Francis Hitching, an author and investigator of strange phenomena. Hitching placed a camera and a videotape recorder in the supposedly haunted cellar.
I've been investigating ghosts and other related phenomena for a number of years now, and this sounds to me a particularly good and typical example of a ghost. That's to say, we're here in a very old building, one of the oldest basements in London, certainly part of the old London. Up there is the street itself, and I dare say you can hear some noises which come across it from time to time. And the stories that we've heard, the 2 people, the witnesses, talking about somebody in Stuart costume, this is typical of the kind of appearance that you get, somebody in costume appearing in an old building, sometimes at the same time, sometimes not. And I feel that it's one that's worth investigating with modern equipment.
Hitching sealed the doors from the inside and remained alone in the cellar throughout the night. He focused his camera on a dark pillar in the middle of the room.
Much to my surprise, we have found something. I'd like you to have a look at it. It's a very surprising image which is coming on the screen in just a few moments. Now, I was here at the time that this was taken, and I saw nothing myself. I think I was looking at the pillar at the time that it was there, but look, coming up on the screen is a most extraordinary something. What is it, a light? It may be, if it's a ghost, is that what a ghost looks like? As I say, I think I was looking at the pillar at the time, but there it is emerging on there. Nobody else was here, and it's not an earthly thing. It's nothing that could be created with a torch. It's got curious images which goes up like that. I think it's one of the most remarkable ghostly manifestations that's happened in my experience looking for them. Whether or not it's something that can be the same ghost that's gone away now, whether or not it's the same ghost as they saw, whether it's one of these manifestations that happen sometimes when people go out trying to look for things, and instead of specifically what they're looking for, some other thing appears out of the fabric of the building, I just don't know. Until today, my theory was that under conditions of extreme emotion, That's to say great pain, great anguish, even great happiness, that somehow this emotion imprinted itself in the solid fabric of buildings, and people were able to recognize it, and it came out in the same way that clairvoyants and psychometrists, dowsers can pick hold of a solid object and tell you a lot of things about the people who were last there. That's until today. But today I've seen this thing, and I can pick hold of a solid object and tell you a lot of things about the people who were last there. That's until today.
Sorry about that, guys.
But today I've seen this thing, and I can't explain it. And so my explanation yesterday has been torn away. What I believe tomorrow, I just don't know. I'll have to look at that again and again, and perhaps one day I'll find out.
What are ghosts? And why do they keep repeating the same actions over and over again? One theory is that a haunting is a violent release of energy, somehow frozen in space and time. When weather conditions are exactly right, the action is played back, like a recording. Impossible? So were Xeroxing and holography just a few short years ago. In fact, so were videotape replays, like the one you're watching right now. People have been seeing and hearing ghosts for thousands of years. Soon, we may know how and why. What a tremendous gain that would be for science, and what a tremendous loss for storytelling.
There you go. Welcome in, everybody that's just coming in. Good night, Blue, and sleep well, love. And you said something earlier, if you catch this later, about scorpions and still loving you. You couldn't be more right, man. That's it. That's it. You know, and there's another one by The Cure. Oh, gosh, I can't remember. Oh, gosh, what is it? What is it? It was in Gone in 60 Seconds. Somebody will come up with it. It's about heart something, and it's one of those that just absolutely gets inside and just pulls everything out, and you just like wasted at the end of it. You just feel purged, you know, those kind of songs. Gary Moore, Still Got the Blues for You. Scorpions, I saw him do that song live in Paramount Theater in Asbury Park. I was 18 years old, and the Scorpions came on. And they were, except for the bass player, they were all really short guys in really, really high platform boots. But by God, could they play. And the sound in that old theater, the acoustics in there, it was an absolute treat, man. The Scorpions live in Asbury Park, 1979. Whew, blew my mind. Yep. Scorpions. They had it going on, but their boots were so big. Kiss would have walked up to them and go, "Man, those are high boots," you know. I mean, they were really high, and you know, as tall as this big German bass player was, I forget his name, and if I ever knew it, and he was like 6'4", and he was still wearing them, so he's like this monster in leather and spandex, you know, back in the 70s. So funny, but anyway. That's when Judas Priest and everything was really big. But how about that, what Leonard said there? You know, what is a ghost? And, you know, is it a violent act and a burst of energy that imprints? You know, Steve and I have talked about that many a time. Many guests that I've had on the show, we've talked about that. Almost like an imprint, like, you know, making a record and putting it into the wax, you know, a tape theory, you know, where it's like just put on that magnetically. Somehow, I don't know. again, I think it's all theories, but I don't think it's one thing. I think it's multiple things because, again, we've got these ghost ships, and now the term ghost ships is really almost used for ships that have been wrecked. They're wreckaged, and they're on on a sand dune or something, or stuck or wrecked, and they, from wars and things like that, or these boats that go around and they don't have anybody on them. They're calling them ghost ships. So when I say it, I mean ghost ships like the Marie Celeste and what's the other one? I can't remember right now. The Dutchman, the Flying Dutchman. Those are ships that are seen as whole ships with crews. They hear the crews. In some cases, these ships appear on fire in a green glow that encompasses the entire ship that's witnessing it. And many things happen around those. To me, I can't explain it. I think one of the best conversations I ever had about this was with Steve and this other gentleman that we had on, and we were kind of bantering around ideas. And it's all different. I don't think ghosts are one thing. I don't think these visions and things that we're seeing, like ghost trains and stuff like that, how does that have energy and have what you would say like a soul? Is it the combined people on the train at the time of the event? Such as with Lincoln, not only the people on the train and the extreme grief and everything that was being felt of the people that were there, but the people alongside that lined up for hours to see it just go by, to pay their condolences, through so many states it ran through. So I don't know. There's a lot of theories there, but it really intrigued me how he said that, what a gain it would be for science and what a loss for storytellers. And I don't think it would be a loss. I think it would be a gain for both, because even if we found the answer to one thing, it doesn't discount all the other things, and it doesn't explain all the other things, unless you just say it's all connected and it's all mystical the way it all works. And I think at this point, it's almost sad to hear him say, very much like in the Bigfoot episode where we were talking about 1974, they're sitting around the picnic table talking about they've been in it 20, 25 years and still don't have an answer. And we add another 50 years to that, and we're still sitting here trying to decide whether Bigfoot exists or whether something like that we describe as Bigfoot could exist in the woods. And we can't seem to grasp the fact that, why not? Well, I need proof. I need that. Okay, I understand that, but something's going on. So obviously something's going on with ghosts. We cannot explain it. We can't reproduce it on command. And I think that's one of the big things that science has to do with it, And there goes my hands again. I'll get comments about, you got to stop moving your hands or I won't watch your show. Honey, I don't want you to watch my show. Just, move on. Because the thing is we pick apart too many things and we don't realize that, maybe somebody had 2 cups of coffee, or maybe they're nervous to talk in public, but they're making themselves, this isn't me, I'm just making this shit up, that, they're nervous to talk in public, and maybe they get excited when they get in the zone. I know people that get really hyped up, and when the time finally comes, like you're doing a play or a Broadway play, they don't even remember it because their adrenaline is through the roof. You know what I mean? So, I get jokes like that. They say, could you talk if you sat on your hands? And I'm like, yeah, but I wouldn't be talking to you. Picky people that are brave behind a keyboard, and I think there's an awful lot of that. But in these shows, I think it takes us back to a little bit more of that respect in how they're doing it. You said it right earlier, Edna, about respect in the calligraphy, in the writing, the penmanship, and how you were speaking to people. And I mean, some of the, don't get me wrong, some of these Civil War letters were very juicy. I mean, and very, a lot of double entendres, and they missed their loved ones and their wives, and they spoke like you wouldn't believe some of the things they talked about, but they said it with eloquence. You know what I mean? It's kind of true. And I know multiple stories of women that kept the letters, and of course wrapped with the ribbon, or tied with something for memory, you know. And before they died, they threw them into the fire, so it's no eyes would see the intimate, the love shared in the letters and stuff like that. And you think, oh my gosh, the history, you know. But anyway, that was fun. So there's old Leonard, and there is In Search Of. Again, you can see that, just punch it into YouTube and Rumble and BitChute, and so many people are playing the whole thing. They've got whole playlists of them, and I highly recommend you go out there and grab them. And I know AJK and a couple other people have told me since we started doing this that they have gone back and looked at them and revisited the whole shows and seen things that they forgot. And I think it's so neat to look back, 40, 50 years ago on some of these things. And again, are we any closer to understanding why the bride dances in the dance hall? Why so many people see her? Why so many people can tell you about the bellman? Countless stories of people coming downstairs, to the manager in some haunted hotel or venue, and seeing the picture of the last owner or someone that worked there and go, well, that's the guy I saw in my room last night. I know multiple stories like this. So, how many stories, how many times, how many, proof upon proof upon proof upon proof of these things. And we're going to bring up one tomorrow night that I think is one of the time told and tried stories that lasted a man's lifetime pretty much, and his story never changed. He was extremely humble, never accepted a dime for speaking about it or anything else. And it's one of those that over time, many decades, something happened to solidify his story that he stood by for, like I said, decades. 40, 50 years. So it's kind of a cool story, but I'm saving that one to do with Steve. And like I said, possibly Mark might be coming in. Mark Anthony Wyatt, wonderful author, wonderful storyteller, and multiple experiencer, so it's wonderful to have him. So we're getting real close to 10 o'clock, and I know I'm so sorry I rattled on about things, and I had one more for you, but I'll play that one tomorrow night. I would love to get this one in because it's fun, and it's another, this one is from... Let me make sure here real quick. This one's only about 10 minutes long. I know a lot of you want to get out of here and get to bed. You got work in the morning. Yeah, let's play it through, and then I'll tell you where you can find it on the YouTube, okay? Here you go. The last little one, Haunting in Wales. So, again, here we go. We're going around the globe here. Tomorrow I might even take you to Japan. What about that? Here we go.
Great houses testify to lives of murder, betrayal, lust, and vengeance. In the southwest of Wales, a haunted medieval fortress houses the persistent ghosts of a beautiful lovesick princess and an ugly, vicious animal. Carew Castle stands on a grassy mound above the tidal waters of the Carew River. For more than 9 centuries, it played an important part in Welsh history. Originally a military stronghold, it was modified over the years into an Elizabethan mansion. Now an elegant ruin, Carew appears empty, but eerie, inhuman cries are often heard at the castle. And the figure of a woman dressed in white continues to haunt Carew's dark corridors. The apparition of the lady in white was seen in the summer of 1996. A local scientist, Angela Ferguson, was researching the activities of a bat colony at the castle. As was her routine, the scientist settled down to spend a long night monitoring the movement of bats to and from their nests in the Great Hall. She had been working for several hours when she glimpsed a shape above her head. Through the half-light, she saw a white figure, a woman, walking silently towards a window high in the wall. It was as if the woman was floating in mid-air, gliding on a long-vanished floor. The figure then vanished through solid stone. Although shaken by the apparition, the scientist noted everything she witnessed.
When local people heard the scientist's account of the otherworldly visitor, they knew the identity of the ghost. She was the lady in white, and her story belongs in the annals of Welsh history. Her name was Princess Nest, one of Wales's most vibrant characters. Nest first came to this castle as a young bride, but her restless ghost searches for a man who was not her husband.
In the year 1100, Wales was still mainly ruled by Welsh princes. But the Normans, having invaded and conquered England, had also settled into many parts of Wales. The young princess, Nest, was given in political marriage to an Anglo-Norman, Gerald of Windsor. Nest was a great prize, the daughter of a powerful Welsh prince. She was beautiful, charming, and intelligent. Indeed, she is thought to have been the mistress of the English King Henry I and to have borne him a son. As part of her dowry, Nest brought her husband Gerald lands at Carew. The castle was built to be their new home. Nest was a dutiful wife, and during her marriage she bore Gerald 5 children. But love intervened and changed her fate. In 1109, an event occurred that shocked all Wales. Nest had a cousin, Owain, the son of a prince. Having not met since childhood, the two were brought together at a banquet. Owain was captivated by her charm and beauty, and she likewise enjoyed her cousin's company. By the end of the night, the handsome, impulsive Owain determined to take her for his own. Late one night, Owain entered the castle with several companions. To cause a diversion, they set fire to another part of the castle and crept up to the room where Gerald and Nest lay sleeping. Gerald and Nest heard the commotion and feared it was an attempt to kill Gerald. Nest helped her husband to escape. When Owain entered the room, he found Nest alone and carried her away. The Welsh were scandalized by the fate of the abducted princess. They thought she had certainly been violently kidnapped and raped. The country was thrown into turmoil. But history records the princess was a willing prisoner. During her 2 years with the young Owain, she bore him 2 children. Their initial attraction had turned to love.
Gerald's honor had to be avenged. The wrath of barons, princes, and the king himself fell on the heads of Owain's clan, and in the bloody conflicts that followed, Owain's father was killed, and the hot-headed Owain himself fled to Ireland.
Nest was returned to her husband and family. Gerald's wife once more, Nest resumed her life at Carew. But Gerald was tormented, humiliated by Owain's deeds, troubled by his own cowardly escape from the castle. Gerald felt he was the object of ridicule. He bided his time until he could settle the score with Owain. This period of history saw many battles, and an uprising in South Wales in 1116 brought Gerald and Owain together as unlikely comrades in arms. It seemed as if the two men would put their past behind them, but Gerald's resentment soon caused blood to spill. Observing that Owain had gone out riding alone, Gerald seized the moment. He quietly summoned a group of his men and slipped out of the camp. Alone and off guard, Owain suspected nothing when he saw a guard approaching and stopped, making himself an easy target. He was shot dead with an arrow. Gerald at long last had his revenge. Nest outlived her husband Gerald, and her children founded great dynasties. But Nest's true love was always her young cousin, the passionate Owain, who stole her away and shocked a kingdom.
There is a theory that over time the intensity of an image slowly fades. A figure in a red dress dims to become a pinkish apparition, dwindling away to perhaps a sound only, a swish of fabric, and then no more than a presence, a sense of someone passing. Princess Nest lived at Carew 900 years ago, and yet her ghost is still recognizable.
Local people believe she still looks out of a window at the castle, longing for her murdered lover. Is her love for Owain so strong that it has not faded after so many centuries?
Well, there you go. How long does a ghost last? Does it fade away over time, like we said, when it stops being noticed or can get energy, or when it's not spoken of anymore? Can a ghost be brought back because you begin to speak of it? Can we manifest a ghost that never was, such as in a tulpa? I think all of those things can be true, but in some cases, ghosts go on and on and on. And I've met mediums that have bumped into ghosts that were 1,000 years old. I've met wonderful psychic detectives that have gotten EVP recordings of ancient languages that were spoke so long ago. It took university after university after university to figure out what it was until it finally clicked. And they found out that not only was it a language that existed, but they were answering intelligently the questions that were being asked in real time. So when someone comes and tells you they're 100% adamant that this is the way this is, and this is the way this is, and this is the rule for this, and you know, it kind of gets a little funny. All the above, right, Gray? Absolutely, you know. And that's the thing. I think when we start putting them in boxes, which they do to themselves, it's another story, but I think we forget the magic of it all. And, you know, I think there's something to be said for, you know, kids that took their toys apart to see how they worked. You know, future engineers, future builders, future inventors. You know, there's definitely a lot to be heralded there. You know what I mean? Absolutely. But if you can't figure out how the toy works, is it any less fun to play with? Is it any less magical to combine it with your imagination? You know, like, gosh, how much fun does, kids have building forts out of boxes and, things like that. It's like my cat keeps telling me all the time, no, Mom, it's not the stuff that came in the box, it's the box itself. You know what I mean? And it's like, and I fit in it, so I'm sitting in it, Maybe we just need to sit in an open box sometimes and just marvel at how, it could be a boat, or it could be a train, or it could be a fort, or it could be this. So imagination, I think all of it has a place, and I think it all works well together, because whether we like it or not, whether the scientists like it or not, it's happening, and it's been happening. And here we have Leonard Nimoy, who obviously served on, the galactic space, whatever that thing was. I forget the whole story. I was never a Star Trek person. My brother was, and he was an engineer, mechanical engineer, so he was all about, he's a Trekkie. This could work or that would work, and the physics in this and the physics. He went at it that way. And I think a lot of kids just sat cross-legged in front of that thing to see what the new monster was going to look like when they went to another planet, or, was Kirk going to go nuts, or, is this going to get blown up, or, the same reason we watch anything, I guess, to be taken away. And I think that's why we're so interested in this subject. So tonight we went over an awful lot of cool stories. There was something in each story, I think, not just for the time, and to tell the stories of the bride that fell down the stairs, it seems awful that we don't know all the names, because here, after all these years, now it's the burning bride. Now it's, the lady who, goes after her looks for her lover after 900 years. She's still a solid ghost, but is that what she's telling us? Is she telling us, love has her, searching? Is it, again, like they said, a burst of energy, a longing, a sadness? It doesn't have to be a burst either. It could be a depth of the feeling. I can't imagine... I think the ones I understand the most are the mothers looking for their children. I've come across so much of that in my own life, with ghosts that are searching for, they won't leave, until they know their children are okay. And it's vice versa, the other way around. Mothers and kids that are stuck here, and mothers that are on the other side trying to get in touch. And you wonder, how does that energy keep missing each other? They're right here next to each other, and neither one of them can see each other. Or the wife that came back 14 years trying to get her husband, who continued to sit at the kitchen table, 20 years after his death. Never heard her. He was so caught up, So again, we don't know, and it's all theories, but I really dig these older shows. That last gentleman, I have to tell you, fantastic. And we're going to see more of him tomorrow night. He is Sir Robert Hardy. And he hosted a series of shows. There was only 4 or 5 of them, and each one was Castle Ghosts of Scotland, Castle Ghosts of Wales, and on and on. Wonderful job. I absolutely love his energy. All of these hosts in here, their energy was terrific. I think we really dig that, when we hear the things that go bump in the night, and the poetry, and the creaking doors and things like that. You can't beat it. You just can't beat it. But it wasn't, even the really tacky ones, we still enjoyed it, because it was like, oh gosh, this is going to be good. We saw a couple weeks ago one that was not so good, about that poor kid runner. Is he going to be, killed by a demon, his blood sprayed across the walls? And you got this 8-year-old kid walking through, downtown. Nobody's in the city, just this little 10-year-old kid walking around with a bunch of library books home and just wondering what's in the air. And it was just weird. I think the concept was good. It was the way it was put through. But these shows, the production on it was fabulous. They didn't try to, of course, they gave you jump scares and things like that, but who doesn't like those? It's not like it is today. It's just different, and I think it's worth digging out there and digging down and getting some of these treasures and bringing them forth. And I'm so glad to bring them to you guys. I appreciate the super chat. Thank you, Lindsay, so much. If you feel like I've done a good job here and you like the work and you enjoyed it, you got a smile, give it a thumbs up, share it out. Let's get some subs in here and show them what we have in this wonderful chat. Share the bacon, share the love. Yeah, that one was bad. Let's see. I mean, watch the whole thing. That's the one where I was laughing so hard. It was something else. But I think it really kicked it off when I started reading the comments underneath. It was just something else. So it's funny. But I love looking at all these things. I love putting the little stuff together for you and all of the little subtleties I stick in here. I hope you go back and look at them again and you get my meaning behind them. The horse was one of them because it bothered me so much to hear those horses. I had to give the horse the last jump and show you that he was okay. So I dug around for hours trying to find a ghost a horse I could make look like a ghost through my little stuff, and I put all this stuff together, and it's really good. It's twofold because I enjoy doing it. It takes me out of my world for a little bit, and I get so excited when I go, oh, I got to show them this. I got to show them that one. And it turns out that I've got like this 6-hour show. So I want to go through these and do it right. I want to do little things like that with Henry VIII in the kitchen because I want you to see what it was like. Not everybody can take these trips. Some of you are so lucky that you've got to walk through some of these wonderful castles. Mairead, I can't imagine, where you are, and some of you are right here by a lot of these things and probably drive by them all the time. Of course you would. There's stuff that people come from, so far away to see stuff that I drive by every day and don't even look at anymore. So it's great to have a different set of eyes on it and get the story and stuff too. So I love sharing them with you. I love setting them up for you. I really appreciate all of the new subs. Thank you so much for coming in here tonight. I hope you stay. I'm trying something and putting over there on Facebook. You're going to come up as Facebook user. I don't understand all that, but I think if you just come on in over to the YouTube live, then we'll be able to see your icon and everything else. But if you want to stay just Facebook user, we love you just the same. And we're so glad you're here in this chat. Thank you tonight to all the mods. Tomorrow night we are going to do a continuation. Anything I didn't get to play for you tonight, and I've got a whole slew of next for tomorrow as well. And with our wonderful buddy Steve, who's doing so great out there. If you can, he is doing a fantastic job with Sandy and all her hard work over there. They're doing the Spirited Away series. They have the book out now. I see they're doing interviews on shows and things. I hope soon we'll be able to get them on here and welcome them into this family. We're here all the time, and we love everything they're doing over there on Missing Persons and Mysteries, and Bill and everybody. That's so good. So much good works have come out of these shows and YouTube shows. And there's Sean, great. You got a great show too, buddy. I mean, isn't it great that everybody can go in and do their own thing and still touch people and have people watch it? Thank you so much. I would have loved to have you on as a co-host with me tonight, Sean. Maybe next weekend or a upcoming weeks we can do that and just watch a few of these and talk about, pick out what stood out to us in these stories, because it's so multi-layered on these things. There's so much wisdom here. And thank you so much, Ann. I appreciate that for the production. I appreciate that. I got a few mistakes in there, but I'll tell you, it gets hard sometimes. I'm doing all this mostly on my phone, and then I put it through my laptop and I do some extra things there. But it's going and finding the pictures and the right picture and trying to find that snippet of information that's going to, you know, compound the story and make it stand out in a way that makes some kind of sense. You know, we could go on for hours about Henry VIII and the things that he did as a king, and you know what does it mean to even be a king? What is that about? What is, you know, you're born, you know, and then you know you're 13 and you're making decisions on, you know, countries and stuff. This is craziness, but it happened, you know, decade after decade after century, this kind of stuff, and you're bound to have some ill will and, you know, people hiding behind the tapestries and doing the nasty and, you know, getting beheaded for it, and this one lying about that one and this one turning in this one, and you know, people dying and being lied about, and then their spirit is in unrest because, you know, they've been lied about. And I think some ghosts care, or some souls care about that, and some just don't, because you know, some of the worst travesties against people, and then you never hear anything, or, you know, they seem to be fine, or maybe reincarnated, who knows what. There are no answers. It's just a great big onion. Multiple layers, but the layers, man, they're multi-flavored, and just so, there's a surprise under every one. And I hope you enjoyed some of this tonight. So, again, I know I played that little one for you, and everything was kind of fast, and you didn't get to see a lot of the pictures. When I play it again, when you get to Lep Castle, try to look in the background and you'll see the picture of the elemental just kind of fading in and out there. And that's the one that I saw as a kid that scarred me for life. If I ever got a chance to go into Lep Castle, I wouldn't go near it. Apparently, it is preceded by an extreme gaseous smell. And the way I take that is it's almost a thick smell, like that kind of coats your nose and the inside of your mouth and all that kind of stuff. Just a thick smell of decaying flesh and sulfur. So those are two things that I would say right out the gate, not good. And then you see the thing and then you know it's not good. And I remember seeing that when I was little, and supposedly this, I could still see the lady looking at this thing in the reenactment, and she just takes her handkerchief and puts it over her nose, like, you know, lady, I'd have flown over the banister, down the stairs, and out the castle door before, and forget the moat. The don't even bother putting the drawbridge down. I'd just jump the moat and be gone, you know, if I saw something like that. But she was such a lady about it, you know, seeing this elemental, apparently like 3 foot tall kind of thing. And I'd love to dig into that and see if there's any more stories about it. They just seem to like trip over it a little bit. But see if you can see that picture in there. And I'm going to go ahead and play that, and then I'll play the outro. And I hope to see you guys tomorrow night. So if you liked what was going on tonight, you're going to love it having Steve in here too, because Steve has wonderful stories and he sees things I don't see. And you know, and I just love him so much. His energy is just, you know, wonderful, and we always have a good time in here. So I hope to see y'all tomorrow night. Thank you for all the new subs. Thank you for the super chats. If you want to, you know, send one or give me a super sticker or something like that, I appreciate it. I don't have my PayPal here tonight. I have to send that back out to my mods, but I do have that, and I can put it in the description. And we also have a Teespring, so it's basically tpublic.com/Cisco, and you can go in there and, oh, thank you so much, John. Welcome, John, new subscriber. Thank you so much, sir. And what we'll do is I'll get that in the description for you, and I'll definitely put it up tomorrow night. So if you want to do that, but again, it helps just being here and commenting and appreciating it and thinking about it afterwards, and thinking about maybe going and watching the whole versions of these shows over on the YouTube or you know, wherever you might find them, and really appreciating some of these witnesses that are telling their stories. They're not here anymore at this point, most of them, and they left that behind, a little knowledge to us, and saying, you know, this is what I saw, this is what I think. You know, 50 years later, what do we think? All we can do is say, this is what I saw, and this is what I think. And isn't it amazing You know, we don't have to have the answers. I think we just need to appreciate it, and we appreciate each other, and appreciate yourself. You know, eat the big cookie, keep those big fat candles lit, and listen on the wind and see if you hear anything tonight. You know, a little whisper, a little call, you know, somebody's name. Maybe somebody will call yours, but keep your feet under the covers and keep your closet door shut. Hey, Carol, because there are things that go bump in the night. There you go. We'll be here tomorrow night too, Carol. Watch the replay. It was a good deal. And I've got some more for tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to go to Japan and Scotland and some other fun surprises. Okay, and I'm sure we haven't seen the last of old smelly King Henry VIII, right? You know, I wonder if he hears us talking about him. I wonder what he thinks about his legacy he left behind. He probably thinks he did a good job. Who am I to judge? See you all tomorrow. I love you. And I wouldn't marry any kings or queens. I hear it's like harsh duty from what I've picked up this week. I don't want anything to do with it. Just give me the tapestries, the fireplace, and the stone, and the property, and the horses. The rest of you can just, you know, let me say, we don't need anything. We'll roast our own chicken, right, chat? I love you all so much. Have a good one. And like I said, I'm going to replay that one for you on the way out. And then we will go. I'm so glad you enjoyed it. It's been fun.